Hi, welcome back to the channel. In this video, we are going to discuss about the records in Java. Okay, so records are a new concept in Java which was introduced as a permanent feature of Java programming language in Java 17, right? But before we discuss about records, let's discuss about what is a data class or what are data classes. Why? Because both are related to each other. Okay, so how they are related to each other we will understand in the later part of the video, but let's first understand about the data class. So as the name suggests, the data classes are not a particular type of class in Java, but it is a simple class that we create for mapping the data to any incoming data. Okay, so suppose a data is coming from an API call, or we want to send a data to a service, or we want to store the data to a table in SQL. Okay, so we need to map the column names or we need to map the fields, then only we can do so. So for that we create a Java class. Okay, so before moving on, let's understand. So as you can see here, we are having a shape API. Okay, so suppose there is a shape API which gives us three attributes: name of the shape, color of the shape, and type of the shape. So we have a name of the shape as a square, color of the shape is blue, so suppose the square is a blue color, and the type is 2D. Okay, so square is a 2D shape. Now this data is coming in a JSON format. Okay, this data is coming in a JSON format, and we want to use this data in our project. Okay, and the shape API that we are using is a external API. We need to call this from Java application and we need to use it. So for that we need a Java class. Okay, so how that is done we will understand right now, but this Java class which will map to this data, okay, this upcoming data, these fields, name, color, and type, so that it can store the actual data that is coming, square, blue, 2D, and maybe a list of data can be coming. Okay, so such class is known as a data class. So let's understand in Java how do we write a data class and what are the requirements when we want to use a data class. So coming back to the Eclipse IDE, let's create a data class shapes. Okay, so we have created a class shapes, which is a normal class, nothing new, but we will have a three fields: private, string, name, private, string, color, and private, string, type, or we can say shape type. Okay, shape type. Now we have defined these three attributes in which we will be storing our data, that it will be coming from shapes API. Fine, but these fields are private. Okay, and these fields must be private so that no one should directly access these fields. So how do we set the values of these fields? So the way we can set is through a parameterized constructor. Okay, so let's create a parameterized constructor. So string name, string color, and string shape type. So we can just write this dot name equal to name, this dot color equal to color, and this dot shape type equal to shape type. Perfect. Okay, so now we are all set because we have created the three fields in which we will be storing or mapping our data that we will be receiving, and we have a public constructor, a parameterized constructor, through which we can set the value of our fields. Okay, perfect. Now let's create an object of a shapes. So shapes s1, and we have a shapes. So suppose this is a, we assign a value is square 1 square, or and we assign it blue, and we assign it 2D. Okay, now since we don't have a API to call, so let's suppose this shape S1 has a data from the API. Okay, it is a request object. So whenever you call an object, or whenever you call a API, okay, not an object but a API, then you get a request object of that API. Okay, so in this example, when you are calling the shape API and you are getting this data, this is a request object. Basically this is a request object in which this data will be stored. So let's suppose this S1 will act as a request object here. Okay, and let's suppose we create another object named shapes. Okay, now it is empty. It wants the data that is stored, or that is stored in the request object. So how will it get? So if we just try to access data through directly name, it will give error. Why? Because it will say either change the visibility of name in the package or create getter or setter. So we need to get our data from the request object. So to get the data, we need getters. So we right click here, go to source here, and here you can see it is generate getters and setters. Click on it. On the rightmost side, click select getters and then generate. Perfect. So till now we understood that we need fields to map, we need a public parameterized constructor, and we need getters in our data class. That is the requirement. Perfect. So we can now call s1 dot get name. Okay, in the second field we can call s1 dot get color, and in the third field we can call s1 dot get shape type. Okay, so we have got this all right. Now let's first print the data, because we need to verify whether the data has actually came or not. Okay, whether s2 has got the required values. These values should be present in the s2 object. So let's verify by printing it. So okay, so we have got a hash code value. Okay, so we have got the s2 has been printed in a way which is not readable by us. So basically we need a toString method for this purpose. So another requirement we get that a data class should have a toString method. So we go to source again and we click on this generate toString, and then just click on generate. Now as we click on generate, we get our toString implemented automatically. Now let's try to run again. When we run again, now we get our shapes object, which is s2. This s2 object we are getting. So it has square as name of the shape, blue color, and 2D shape, which is now perfect. Okay, now suppose I want to check whether these two objects are same or not. So I will say s1 equal to s2. Now remember, this equal to method checks the whether the two objects are same or not. Okay, or you can say they check for the references. S1 points to one object, S2 points to the object. Now it will check whether the S1 or and S2 both points to the same object, yes or no. So it will give a Boolean result. So let's check whether these two objects are same or different. So if we are getting false. So S1 is pointing to another object, S2 is pointing to another object, though it is very clear because we have used new operator to create two different shapes object. Okay, now the two objects are different, that's okay, but the content, if you see here, So I just print s1 also, s1. Let me print s1. If I print s1, you can see both have same content. Name is same, color is same, shape type is same. So their content should be same. So to check the content of the shape, we use equals method. So if we say s1 dot equals s2, so equals basically checks whether the content inside the s1 and s2 are same or not. Okay, so that if two objects hold the same content, matching content, it gives true, else false. So if we try to run this, we get false. But that's a problem. Why? Because as we can see clearly, both are containing the uh, both content match perfectly. No if and but or no here and there. So why it's giving false? Because there is something called as equals and hash code contract in Java. And according to that contract, a class should implement equals and hash code if it wants the equality operator to run perfectly. So we need a hash code and equals method also. So this is another requirement which we should have, a data class should have. So we come to source here and we click on hash code, generate hash code and equals, then we generate it. And now we get the implementation of it. Okay. So we get an automatic code. And now let's check for this again. Let's save our code and let's click on here. Now we get true. So it says, though the both object s1 and s2 are different reference variable, they point to two different objects, but the two objects contain the same data. So that's why it is true. So from this example, what we understand, we have to write the fields so that we can map the data to any API call or any API request object. We need a parameterized constructor so that we can set our values of the fields. We need getters so we can get the values of our fields, or we can get the value from the request object. We need a toString method so we can print our object in a human readable format, and we need hash code and equals method so that our equals method or equality method works perfectly. Okay, so for this purpose, these all are the basic requirement of a data class. Actually, these are not just basic requirement, these are the only requirements of a data class. Okay, but for this, as you can see, we have to write so many lines of code. Okay, so if you can see here, we here at 5, so from 5th line to 52 line. So if you remove it, 52 minus 5, around 47. So 40 to 45 lines of code we are writing. And for what? For these three fields to map. For just three fields to map to a request object, or the request that is coming, as I explained here, these three fields are coming. And for this small amount of JSON data, we are doing 45 lines of code, and that's enormous. So the Java developers who are developing the Java language came up with a solution. Okay, and the solution is records. So let me explain the records. So let's delete this whole class, remove this class. Okay, and write record. Now record is, what is record? You will understand in just a bit. Just write record shapes, put a bracket, parenthesis, and write a string name. We have to write our fields, a string color, and we write a string shape type. Then we open the curly bracket, close the curly bracket, and that's all. If we save it, we get, see, the error is gone. Now this error is coming. I know this in the getter method. I will tell you why. But basically, if we are creating an object of the shape, we are not getting any error, right? Why we are not getting any error? Let's for some time let's remove this. Control 7 to comment. Let's save this code and then run the Java application, and you can see it's working fine. So our code is working fine. Okay. So what is the magic that has happened, that we don't have to write anything? We just define a record name and we just define 3 fields that we want to map, and everything is set up. So basically, record, whenever we write record, it gives getters parameterized constructor, toString method. It gives toString method, equals method, and hash code. Okay, not hash code, hash code. Okay, so these all are given by default by the record. It implements internally all these things and provides us. So in just one line of code, so earlier we were writing 45 lines of code to do this. Now in just one line of code, we are doing everything. It is giving us getters, it is giving us parameterized constructor, it is giving us toString, equals, and hash code. You see that in this I have not implemented toString method. String, still it is coming, shapes, as you can see, in a human readable format. Why? Because toString method is implemented behind the scene by Java programming language when we are writing record or when we are using record. Now, related to why the error was coming, let's come back to it. So basically, in record, the how getters are implemented are in a different way. Okay, so if you want a getter, it is implemented like, suppose name is a field name, and then brackets. This is how getters are implemented. So if you just remove this and just write n name, so error is gone. Similarly for color, if you just write color and a function, so if we remove the color, we are getting, the error is removed. Similarly from here, we just write s and error is removed. So this is a way how getters are written in or how getters is implemented in records. Okay, but rest is same. Now if I run the code again, so you can see the same result we are getting the way we are getting but when we were using class. Okay, but the difference is from 45 lines of code, it is reduced to just one line of code, and that's the magic. That's the best feature why this record is the best feature in Java 17. So you should use Java 17 or above to access or to use the records, and it is much recommended. Okay, so these, and it is used in when we are developing web applications using Spring Boot. Okay, so there we need a lot of data classes, entities. So there earlier we were using Lombok, so we use Lombok now also, but these records can be very handy and can be very easy to use, and it is inbuilt in the Java programming language itself. No external library you have to import. So that's the benefit. One more thing, record can't be extended. Okay, so records can't be extended. Why? Because behind the scene, record also implements the class, but that class is final. Okay, so class is final. So record also behind the scene implement the class, and that class is the final class. So it cannot be extended, and all the fields as you are seeing here are private. So if you try to access s1 dot name, just name, then it will say you again that change the visibility, the field shape dot name is not visible because it is private. So record take care of it. Also these fields are final because you don't want a field that can be changed again and again. Okay, once you store the data, it's final, and that's what we actually require when we are using our these fields in real time. Fine. So this is all about the records in Java, which was introduced in Java 17. So all this is for this video. In the next video, in the upcoming video, we will be learning about some new concepts related to Java, Spring Boot, or some new questions. Okay, new concepts. So till then, bye bye.